flight mode, and then we are going to get started. Okay.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē.
Hello, everyone. I am Sophia Melonē, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage the right way. In today's episode, we have a very special, one-of-a-kind, exclusive interview by none other than an amazing soul who has been recently blessed with the public service loan forgiveness process. You all know that I have been coming on not only this platform on the Debt Demolisher TV, but my other platforms, whether TikTok and Instagram, sharing all about the public service loan forgiveness, especially the limited waiver. And this process has allowed so many to become debt-free from their student loans. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to bring before you all with Dr. Apryl Moore. Dr. Apryl Moore was a recipient of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness program, and we get to hear her story up close and personal inside of this room. So without further ado, it gives me great pleasure to welcome Dr. Apryl Moore into the DDTV room. Dr. Apryl Moore, can we get a
Thank you.
Dr. Apryl, I have to tell you, I am so excited to be able to sit before you today and have this exclusive conversation. But before we get into the crux of the conversation, please tell us a little bit about yourself, and then more specifically, tell us why you chose the career field that you did.
When people ask me what I do, I always say I'm just a teacher, right? I'm just a girl who grew up poor in upstate New York with a single mom in the projects, and I just knew that education was a way for me to better myself. And I went to college. I didn't start off wanting to be an educator. I went to college and got a degree in biology and chemistry because I wanted to be a scientist. And I was a scientist. I was an epidemiologist for a while. But on my dad's side of the family, I come from a line of people who work in education. There's speech therapists, psychologists, counselors, and they were always telling me that I was a teacher, that I look like a teacher, I act like a teacher, and I need to start running from it. And so after being an epidemiologist for a while, I was just like, why not? So I went to school at night for teaching. And then I just came to a point where I had to student teach. So I decided to quit my job and student teach all day because I couldn't do both. And I've been in education ever since. So I've taught in Delaware, Maryland, a year in Ohio, and I'm here in Kentucky now. So so I kind of feel like education found me. Like I was trying to run away from it, but
I was gonna say, you can't run from what you're gifted in. Like you said, you've been teaching from the beginning, and you had to be reminded by your parents and those who you love and your family to say, hey, it's time to stop running from it. And I just have to tell you, I just love your energy, your spirit, your smile. I feel like you have the perfect synergy for the classroom and for pouring into the lives of our future generations. So that's beautiful. So thank you so much for what you do as a teacher. Thank you for pouring in the lives of so many, and thank you for your dedication, and thank you for deciding not to run anymore, because your gift will always make room for you. So you said you went to school, you studied biology and chemistry. You studied biology and chemistry, and then after you finished that, you pursued your graduate studies, right? And then after that, since you are a doctor, Dr. Moore, so you definitely completed your doctoral studies. Tell me, do you remember what your maybe student loan balances were looking like after each of those student or academic achievements?
I'm going to say directly, I don't remember, but I believe for undergrad, because I was from out of state and from New York, and I went to school in Kentucky. I believe I took out around 10,000 a year, so it was like $45,000 balance. But when I got married, I had to look at my finances again, and I and I remember when I calculated my loan was 75,000. So it was probably a combination of interest and I don't know. But I remember when I got married several years later, it was like $75,000. And but I was lucky enough, my doctorate degree and my last master's degree were completely paid for.
Woo!
Yeah. Yeah, I received fellowships and yeah.
That is a blessing. So technically you only had undergraduate student loans. So that is amazing. That's amazing to hear. I was thinking too, because sometimes when people pursue their higher education and their higher learning, they oftentimes have to fund it through loans, like whether it be that or medical school or any of that and law school and all of that. It can be very, very, very expensive. So that's great to hear. But you said something. You said you borrowed about $10,000 per semester, and towards the ending of it, you probably took out about $40,000, right? But as time began to grow and you got married, you were at 75,000. So that's a big jump in terms of interest. So let me ask you this, Dr. Apryl. Was there any other types of debt that you had, or was the student loans the only thing that you had? So did you have like any credit card debts, any loans, or any personal loans, or any of that, or like was the bulk of your debts just your student loans?
I would say the bulk of my debts were student loans. I've always had a credit card debt, usually a couple thousand, and then cars.
Mhm.
I've never bought a car more than like $15,000. So, and that usually paid off, and I never get a 5-year loan. I always pay it off in 4 years. But what's been consistent in my life with that has just been student loans. I've never been able to get like a good grip on student loans.
So if I could ask a follow-on question to that, why do you think it was such a challenge to not be able to get a good grip on the student loan portion? Because you said something powerful too here as well, that you had your strategy for your car loans. You were very intentional around how long you kept them, and you knew that you wasn't going to keep them around. But for the student loans, it was a little bit different. Can you talk to me a little bit about what you felt like those challenges were, or what you felt like, I just really can't get a grip on this student loan situation?
One of the big challenges I didn't realize until later because I didn't know when I was signing my loan that I think it was Sally Mae that turned into Navient that I thought were government loans, but they were private government loans. It was just like this weird, I don't know how to explain it. And like the interest rates were just really wonky. And then when I tried to call and make payments or get on the payment plan, the payment plans were always above like what a normal person, a normal teacher could pay. And then sometimes I would call those people and they would put me in like a forbearance or deferment. And I was just like, that's not what I asked for. I just asked for a lower payment. It's like, so, and it got to a point, like, especially after I got married, it was just confusing.
Mhm.
I was just like, I'm not dealing with them. Fine, I won't pay, or I'll just pay the minimum and then the balance would just go up and up. It got to a point where I just thought that student loans would be something I can never accomplish and I'll just die with them. I
Mm,
don't know if that's a good answer, but student loans are funky. Like they're so hard for me to understand. And
mm.
calling those people, it was almost I didn't dodge them, but like when I tell you I used to have like a Bible, like when I called these people, because I never know what I was going to get. And
Oh,
they would harass.
mm.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I can say that I'm so grateful that the Department of Education decided to take some initiatives to really do something to help course correct all of the mispractices that were happening over the years, because you said something very, very, very prevalent that's happening or that has happened to so many, in that when you try to put yourself maybe on an agreement for some of the loans that you had, because the interest rates were so absurd and the interest rates were continuing to accrue, whether you were if you're in school status, they normally, they'll defer where it's not accruing, but it does depend on the type of loan that you have. But you said that seeing your balances grow and then you calling to try to get yourself on a better payment plan or try to change things around, they will put you in forbearance, which wasn't what you were really looking for, what you were trying to do. So some of the initiatives that the Department of Education has been taking as a result of all of these efforts to do the limited waiver, to try to adjust certain things, and the whole student debt relief and all of that, that's of course still caught up in the courts. They're trying to do some course correcting of that red taping of all of the, them putting people in deferment or forbearance that should not have been, and causing them to delay their ability to be able to even be eligible for income-driven repayment forgiveness or income-driven, repayment forgiveness, IDR forgiveness after 20 or 25 years. So I thank you for sharing that piece of it, and just sharing a real life story that you've actually encountered challenges with your loan servicer at the time, and them trying to put you in a position where it would end up costing you more because the interest is still continuing to accrue. So I appreciate that. So tell me, Dr. Apryl, when did you decide? When did you decide to say, you know what, I'm going to do something about this debt? You mentioned that it was very, very difficult and hard to face, and you said something powerful around how you believe like, I'm not going to be able to get through this. I feel like I'm going to end up dying with this huge balance. But what shifted for you to say, this is the time for me to take action on my student loan debt elimination journey? Tell me a little bit about that and where that started.
The first the first time I really, really had to sit down and figure something out was when I got divorced. And it was just me and my kid, right? And I'm just like, I it's already hard as a teacher, especially in the beginning, middle years of teaching. You don't make a lot of money. And now I have this massive debt, and I have the rest of the bills that I have to pay for myself. So that was the first time when I said I was going to somehow, through a miracle, get rid of this debt. But I just didn't know quite how to do it. But throughout the years, I have tried to get student loan forgiveness. But it was teacher forgiveness. And I just don't understand how, as a classroom teacher or science teacher, I thought I met all the criteria. I was never, ever approved for teacher forgiveness. So that was hard. When I tell you, when I got an official letter in for rejection, I cried.
Hold on, talk to me a little bit about that. So tell me a little bit about that. So teacher forgiveness, when we know that teacher forgiveness is hard to get, but tell us a little bit about your attempts with teacher forgiveness, and also walk us through that point where you did receive that rejection letter, and if it kind of entailed, if it gave any details as to why, if it gave any details why.
I remember calling the loan servicer people and saying, hey, I'm a teacher, I want to qualify. And I remember just over the phone, they'll look and say, well, you don't qualify. And one reason was they said I took a wrong type of loan, or I had some kind of bad loan. And I remember calling another time, he said, you talk to somebody different. And they said that I had an outstanding balance some years ago, like when I was in college. And I'm just like, I have no idea what you're talking about, right? So I wasn't eligible. And so one time I decided that I was just going to apply anyway. like forget calling them and asking if I'm eligible. And I applied, did all the paperwork and all that, and I got a rejection letter saying that I had the wrong type of loan or the
Mm.
wrong pay. It was something, and I just cried. I just
Okay.
cried because
You-
it's a lot of work filling out the form, getting your jobs to fill everything out, and you put so much hope into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how long ago did that occur?
I did that, the rejection, I was in Kentucky, so definitely before the pandemic, so maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, I can't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that emotion of that initial attempt and thought of having that be a possibility, receiving that letter in the mail, created some emotion. So I can really understand that. So take us through the journey, a teacher's journey to student loan forgiveness. Come on, Dr. Apryl, because you coined that phrase so beautifully. So your teacher journey to forgiveness, it didn't happen through teacher forgiveness, but
Mm.
let us know how it happened.
I will say a lot, 90% of the teachers, that I know have student loans, so we're always talking about, like, how we are living with the loans, and it was a running joke that our kids are gonna go to college, and we're both gonna have student loans, like, my kid's gonna go to school with student loans, and I still have them, um, and so I would say right when the pandemic hit and things were put on pause, I think, I can't remember, and there was some talk about public service loan forgiveness. And I never really paid attention to it because I was just focused on the teacher. So well, I guess I'm assuming they're kind of the same thing, but I didn't really pay attention to the public service loan forgiveness. But when the pandemic hit, that's when we had a lot of whispering among teachers
Mhm.
about maybe this is something we should pursue.
Yeah, for sure. And I could add a little bit of context to related to the differences between the two. So the teacher forgiveness would allow you to get, of course, forgiveness sooner for up to, I think it was like $20,000 or something of those lines. But you would have to be a teacher for 5 years, at least 5 years, in a specific, like in a specific school district or like in a specific area, had all of these different criterion elements. The other challenge was with teacher forgiveness, your counts, like your payment counts for teacher forgiveness could not be used for public service loan forgiveness. So even with public service loan forgiveness, your employer is what qualifies you to receive credits for public service loan forgiveness, but the very least is up to 10 years. So if we had a lot of teachers who could potentially qualify for public service loan forgiveness, they would go the route of teacher forgiveness because the teacher forgiveness was less time. And it was also, I believe it depends on the type of loan that you have. Even though with public service loan forgiveness, it does depend on the type of loan that you have. But regular public service loan forgiveness was very hard to get prior to the limited waiver. So when the limited waiver opened up, they allowed those who had teacher forgiveness counts, they allowed those counts to also count for PSLF. So it was like a double win for those who were already trying to get their counts accumulated under teacher forgiveness. They could still use those same payment counts as long as they work for that qualified employer for PSLF purposes. And the limited waiver was just a huge blessing for so many people. And as I said before, I'm so glad that the Department of Education took that initiative. And even though it was only available for about a year, and I'm not even sure how many people knew or like to the extent of what they could really understand what could happen as a result of this limited waiver. I think when people really started to see that people's loans were getting forgiven and they really started to press the word, like we need to get people to get their stuff in by October so that they could at least raise their hand for PSLF is what they call it, so that they can receive this relief. Now we are how many months out after that cutoff? of October 31st, 2022. We're going on 6 months, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little bit more than that. And people are getting forgiven. So, Dr. Apryl, can you please tell us a little bit about your process of PSLF and when you started? So you as a teacher, you're equipping so many of our future leaders to have brilliant minds, and you're sacrificing all of your energy, your time, and your resources while accumulating debt. And this PSLF limited waiver process opens up. And what made you decide to do it? So talk to us a little bit about how God opened up the door for you and allowed this process to work. I'm really looking forward to hearing this thing from cradle to grave.
I heard rumblings about it, but I didn't pay attention to it. I thought it was just another teacher thing. But over the summer, like they say, God comes to you mysterious ways. TikTok, right? I'm on TikTok, and your video popped up. I don't know how, but like the For You page just said Debt Demolisher. And there was a teacher YouTuber who got forgiveness, and Smarty Style, I think that's her name. And then I get on TikTok, and there you are, doing lives and videos, and and I just started to listen, and it's just like, I wonder if this is something I should take advantage of. And it was just like something in my ear. And really, I started in the summer, I think, thinking about it and trying to get my paperwork together through my employer, because I got a teacher brain. The summer is free. So I got to do everything in the summer before school begins, because when school begins, like you're too busy to get a lot of things done. And based off conversations with my teacher friends and just listening to videos about PSLF, I got the paperwork together. And then I think, I don't know, I listened to a video, I can't tell you when, but I listened to one of your videos where I thought I had everything together. And then I realized I checked the wrong box because you were talking about the box to check. And so I had to like redo the paperwork. So I submitted it anyway, because I submitted it anyway to Mohila, and then I redid the paperwork with the right box and submitted it again, because I remember you saying, like, you just have to have it in. Like, do not miss that deadline. Do not miss that deadline.
And you got it in, you did the work. And not only that, I just have to say this too, because I don't even think people caught that. You said that you were listening, and you had already started to submit your paperwork by watching videos and by listening to lives and going through. But even still, after you submitted your paperwork, you still continued to listen for more insight. And as you listen for more insight, you had a recognition or recollection to say, wait, I did not check the right box. Let me go back and do it and make sure that I'm picking the right box. So I want to ask you, if you can recall, do you remember the time span from which you submitted a subsequent form to check the correct box? Was it like within a week, 2 weeks? Like, what do you think that timeline was?
I want to say about 3 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So 3 weeks. And in that 3 weeks, I don't even think at that point they had the status page available yet for Mohila, because I do remember that they kind of rolled that out a little bit later on, because there were so many people that kept trying to find out the status of their public service loan forgiveness forms that they were submitting. So I'm not sure, because I was trying to see if maybe if the PSLF status form was available, or the status option was available, if you had put it in, if it might have showed like processing or something along those lines. And then,
Processing.
Yeah, it showed processing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. That's
And
so.
I probably could have done it faster, but then I'm always second guessing myself. Like, is it going to kick it out, or am I going to start over with the time? Like, should I just leave it the way it is? I
Mm.
second guess myself a lot, but but the end, I was just like, nope. I just have to. I have to try.
So let me ask you this. Do you feel like maybe that second guessing could have been an obstacle, or do you feel like there were any obstacles that you encountered along the way once you started to actually once you actually decided that you were going to go the PSLF route to take advantage of the limited waiver? What were some of the obstacles that came up for you, whether emotionally, physically, or technically, whether it be systems or your your loan servicers? What kind of came up for you?
I would say lucky with one thing, I guess, is because I already had Mohila. I had
Mhm.
Navient and Mohila, because I got funky loans for my school, and I don't know. So I ended up with like Navient private stuff, and then I had Mohila, which was something else beforehand. I don't know.
Okay.
So I had to consolidate my loans first to Mohila. And I cry a lot. Like, I cry, even though I disliked Navient a lot, it was a devil I knew. Right. And I I was just like, do I change it into something else? And when you fill out the consolidation form, it tells you, like, what if it doesn't go through and your accounts will be gone, or your payments that you made before, and you got to sign a new promissory note. When
Mm.
I tell you, I just paused and left for a couple days and kept coming back before I actually submitted,
Ooh.
because I was so scared. I
And
was so scared.
I have to add this, Dr. April, because timing is of the essence.
Mhm.
So do you remember at the ending, because more than likely you had an FFEL loan.
Yes.
You had an FFEL loan. So with the FFEL loans, some of those are commercially held, which are the private, that means that, well, because technically all of the FFEL loans were backed by, they were private loans essentially, but they were backed by the government.
Okay.
But when they changed the process, and I guess they couldn't really fund the program, or they decided to sunset the FFEL programs, the government bought some of those loans back in order to kind of preserve and save the liquidity for the banks. So for the loans that did not get purchased back by the government, those stayed as commercial FFEL loans, while the ones that the government purchased back were federally, or like federally, it's basically federal FFEL loans. So they were repurchased by the government. So it falls under the federal side. I'm sharing this because you talked about the hesitation of consolidating. And because of you are a teacher, you're reading the fine print. You want to make sure that your I's are dotted, your T's are crossed. You want to make sure that you're not jeopardizing anything. But seeing all of the warnings per se that they were saying, like, if it doesn't go through, then this is what's going to happen. You're going to lose your accounts, da 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 da. If you would have waited, can we just go there? If you would have waited until after September 28th, 2022, you would have missed your opportunity to be able to have your commercially held FFEL loans forgiven too. So for those of you who may not understand what we're talking about and what we're referring to, when the limited waiver process stood up in October of 2021, giving those who may qualify for PSLF, or those who have worked for public service loan employee or public service employers up until October 31st, 2022, to at least get a PSLF form in. A part of that limited waiver process was allowing those who had FFEL loans to consolidate their loans into a direct loan so that it could qualify for public service loan forgiveness. So for public service loan forgiveness purposes, only direct loans can qualify to receive the relief. So the bonus piece that happened with this limited waiver process was for those who may not have had direct loans, you can now consolidate all of your federal loans into one direct loan, as long as as long as the loans that you are consolidating, at least one of those will be able to give you the counts that can carry forward because it was a direct loan. What they said for FFEL loan and for Perkins loan is that you would not lose your counts after you consolidate. So if you consolidated within the limited time waiver period, then any payments that you made on your FFEL loans or on your Perkins loans while you were working with a qualified employer, those counts will now transfer over and count towards the one consolidated loan that has everything lumped into one. And if you started making payments on your FFEL loans 15, 20 years ago, it's all going to transfer and be counted as qualified counts on this new consolidated loan. So when Dr. Apryl was sharing that she was hesitant and she came back to it, she stepped away, she came back to it, they ended up changing the eligibility for consolidating commercially held FFEL loans because of the uproar that was happening as a result of the one-time debt relief, which is completely separate, where you would either get the $10,000 forgiveness or the $20,000 forgiveness. Because of all of the hoop roar, the Department of Education had to decide to rescind, or not really rescind, but stop the ability for commercially held FFEL loans to be consolidated so that it could be in the pool or qualification for public service loan forgiveness and even for the debt relief. So because Dr. Apryl took action and because Dr. Apryl pushed, even though there were some moments where, okay, I'm going to take a pause, I'm going to come back to it, I'm a little bit nervous, you were unctioned to do it at the right time, Dr. Apryl, because you did not miss the window. And so because you had the commercially held loans, which you said, private held, Navient, it was a nightmare, even though it was a monster that you were familiar with, you were nervous about letting that go, despite how much it was costing you. I'm so glad that you said yes to this consolidation process, because what did it result to? Let us know. No, Dr. Apryl, let us know.
Oh my gosh. Eventually, student loan forgiveness, $133,000 gone.
Get it again. Yes.
$133,000 wiped out. Oh my God. Oh my God.
$133,000 of student loan debt in the whole balance wiped clean. Wiped clean. Dr. Apryl, how did it feel to get that letter in the mail? Tell us, what were you doing? Like, did you expect it? Did you have any inclination? Like, how did it happen? Can you describe that day for us? Can you kind of let us live in that moment with you?
I didn't think it was going to happen because they took forever for them to start putting counts on my Mopila page. And then it was like 15 and 20, like really low counts. I'm just like, I'm far from 120. And I got to the point I couldn't stop looking. I looked it went from like, I looked every week to like every other day to like daily. And it was just got to the point it was not healthy for my mental health. So, and I think in late January and early February, I said I was going to stop. Like, stop looking at it. Wait until like March or something to stop looking at the number. And so, but I couldn't do that. And so I'm going to say like the beginning of February, I looked and it jumped to like 55 and I was happy about that. And then I said, no more, don't look at it. And on a Sunday, I was out and I was driving past my mailbox and said, I did not check the mail yesterday. And I rose, and on a Sunday, I checked the mail and it was a letter from Mopila. And I thought it was a regular letter. I didn't know what it was. And my spirit said, well, I'm sitting in the car. Let me go ahead and open it on a Sunday. And I opened it. And this was on a Sunday. And the Lord's Day, on the Lord's Day, I opened it. And it was this letter. And when I tell you, all I saw was congratulations. All I saw was congratulations.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah, Dr. Apryl. Oh, God.
All I saw was congratulations. And when I flipped it over to the back, it was zero. It was zero. I didn't expect it. The last time I looked, my count was at 50 or 55. And it was just, I just don't know. It's just like, why me? Like, why? I just don't know why me.
Hey, Dr. Apryl, why not you? Why not you?
I'll tell you, I've been dealing with student loans for 20 years. I have a 15-year-old, and I just knew I was going to send her to school, and I was going to have student loans. Yeah, I was going to send my kid to school, and I was going to have student loans, and somehow I was going to have to pay her because she was not taking out a student loan. This student loan is just, it's been a burden. It's been a burden.
But it has been lifted.
It's more than my mortgage. My mortgage is not $133,000.
Oh my gosh.
It is just, it was so evil. Like student loans, it was just so evil. It's so evil. And I was hesitant to even share my story because I'm just scared of the judgment from people about not paying my debt. And then I know there's so many other people who don't have student loan forgiveness. And I don't want to be someone whose joy, makes someone else sad.
Dr. Apryl, you said so much in those words. But what I want to encourage in this moment is that you were chosen to receive this blessing for a reason, and not for it to be kept silent, but for it to be expressed, to even give others a sign of hope that a miracle can happen if they only exercise their faith. So Dr. Apryl, I want to commend you for telling your story. I want to commend you for saying yes to this sharing here, because you did not have to. You did not have to. And I know it may feel like you don't want to seem like you are, hampering someone else's parade by you sharing your testimony, but that's why God gave you the testimony, so that it can be shared. So if someone is feeling salty about your win, that is something for them to deal with. I would say never let someone else's insecurity, someone else's doubt, someone else's frustration, or maybe even jealousy stop you from praising what you receive praise from and through. So Dr. Apryl, it's a powerful thing. And I know that you're not alone in those instances, because many times people don't want to share the good things that happen to them because of the way people respond in a negative manner in response to this great news. And this is also a teaching moment for everyone who may be listening. If we do have wins that we want to be able to share, don't be afraid to not express it. And honestly and truthfully, don't look for someone else's response to your win to dictate whether or not if you're going to continue to share it or not. And I'm speaking to you all, but I'm speaking to myself, because there are many times where I dim my light, or I may hide the praise because I don't want to potentially offend anyone. But the only one that we should be seeking to praise, that we should be seeking to honor, the one that we should be seeking to really impress upon is our Heavenly One. It's our Heavenly One. So you said, Dr. Apryl, that you asked why you. I said in response to that, why not you? And I'm going to add on to that because you were chosen and your story is one like no other. So you have no idea how many other teachers you can be inspiring who may be watching this. You have no idea how many other people who work in public service who you may be inspiring as a result of watching this. You have no idea how many people who may even have private loans that may just want to be encouraged to say, okay, let me stop avoiding my debt and let me take some actions towards it, because I don't know what might happen. And then you also said something too, Dr. Apryl. You said that you didn't want to appear as if you didn't pay off your loans or you didn't pay off what you borrowed. Let's wind it back to the beginning of our conversation. You technically had already paid off your loans. Am I right? Am I wrong? So let's reintroduce that portion of the conversation. When you started your debt elimination, or when you initially took out loans, you said you took out about $10,000 a year. You finished at about $40,000. You had been paying on your loans for 20 years?
For most of it, yes.
For most of it.
Yeah.
So if you took all of those payments that you were making over the life that you were making them, it's going to well beyond exceed the $40,000 or $50,000 that you had originally borrowed. So technically, you did repay your loans. What was forgiven was that gruesome interest that was accruing on the loans that you borrowed. So for those of you who may be watching and feeling like, oh, people who are getting forgiveness aren't paying their dues, no, we've been paying them long enough. We've been paying them long enough. And so you mentioned something too as well, Dr. Apryl, about the looking at the promissory notes and signing, almost like signing your life away. They say that you sign your life away when you purchase a home or when you get a mortgage, but student loans is just as much as signing your life away. But sometimes we could be so young that we don't even really realize what we're signing. We just realize that we need the money so that we can pay for school. So if you could put yourself back to maybe even your younger years when you were in that financial aid office, or when you were filling out your paperwork, your FAFSA paperwork to pay for your schooling, if you could go back to that moment and give yourself one piece of advice, what would you tell yourself? Or what would you do differently?
I would make sure I'm taking out the bare minimum. I didn't take out student loans and buy a car or buy an apartment or with anything, but I was 17 years old when I first started signing promissory notes. So I didn't know much. But I would make sure I was taking out the bare minimum. And I know I did work study. I would make sure if I could have, I would have probably had a part-time job to offset. And I hear now that make sure that you don't take out more than you would make your first year on a job.
Oh, that's some good advice. Yeah, that's good. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
So yeah, so I took out more than I, would make as a first year teacher. But I would have kept that in mind. But I also want to say I was 17 and I grew up in the projects. And I knew that I had to go to school. And if signing this paper would keep me in school, then how can I be mad at myself for signing the paper?
Yes.
So
Yeah. That is so critical what you just said, because sometimes the situations that we are in, it's almost like it's do or die. It's almost like it is our meal ticket. It's almost like that it is the only way that we could escape the environment that we may be in. And if we feel like the cost of debt could get me out of where I am today, I'm willing to take it without even recognizing what that cost is. And I can kind of share a little bit of, I would say, a story on my end with taking out too much. I think that's very solid advice of what you shared in terms of only taking out what you need. But if you kind of tie it back to what you were just said about the environments that we grew up, we were in the projects, we just wanted to be able to get out. Some of us relied on their student loans in order to live, in order to survive. So I took out way more than I needed because that excess was supplementing the shortage of the income that I was making, and either through work study or working part-time and helping my mom and doing all of that. So it's very different depending on where we are culture-wise, the environments that we grow in. Some of us aren't privy to having that flexibility to only take out just what we need. Some of us have to use that excess monies of borrowing more as a survival tactic in order to make it to and from school, in order to eat, in order to have a place to live. So I do want to share this for those of you who may be watching, that if you know someone who is a teen, or if you know someone who's going to college, or if you even have children of your own that may be considering going to college, take these things into consideration and try to do your best. As Dr. Apryl mentioned, with her graduate studies and her doctoral studies, she didn't have to borrow. She had fellowships, she had scholarships, and all of those things. So resources are available. We just have to position ourselves to get those resources. So I appreciate you, Dr. Apryl, for sharing that, for your transparency, for allowing us to see, or allowing us to see you, or allowing us to see ourselves in your story. That's right, allowing us to see ourselves in your story. It's a powerful thing, and I think it's the best way to really help trigger a change in someone inside of their perspective. So Dr. Apryl, tell us what is next for you. You are $133,000 of student loan debt free. What is next for you, for your financial journey, for your career, for anything? Let us know what is up for you next.
it's been a month since I received the letter, so it's finally starting to like really sink in. This is the first time in my adult life that I think that I might one day get to like a positive net worth. One day that's possible. So my mortgage is something I'm going to pay off obviously over time. So I'm just going to turn my attention to my credit card that I have. And I've been pretty good with keeping the balance low. It's just that I had some medical issues and, so I had to put it on the credit card. But like this $9,000 I owe, it seems so attainable now to pay off. And I owe less than 2,000 on my car.
So Dr. Wall, the car is getting ready to be paid off. The credit cards are in motion to be paid. And you said something so powerful. Now you feel like it's possible because you were able to see this huge amount go away. Not only was it a relief for you, it's also a sign of momentum for you. And that's a powerful, powerful observation, because you will be surprised at how many people get debt eliminated, whether it be through forgiveness, whether it be through inheritance, whether it be through consolidation, and they continue to add on more debt because they feel like, okay, this is gone, now how can I replace it? But you, Dr. Apryl, are taking a different approach. You're driving more momentum to your financial freedom journey to say, hey, my car's almost getting ready to be paid off. Hey, my credit card may be at this balance, but I know that I can get it down. So let's talk about a little bit, what strategy do you feel like would be best for you to implement right now? Do you see yourself just kind of monitoring the balances and seeing, okay, am I just going to decide on a recurring excess amount to just add to these monthly payments? Off the first hand, what is going to be your approach for your what's next?
At first, I was gonna do the snowball method, and that was pay off the smallest and then the next. But after our conversation, I'm gonna attack the credit card because of the interest. Because the card was due to be paid off this year anyway, so I'm just gonna continue with that. And now that I don't have to worry about what's gonna happen after the pause and like put that money into my budget, I could take all of that and put it on my credit card. And I must say, like, uh, what's today? On the 20th, I made a $600 credit card payment because that's money I don't have to pay for student loans. So I put a lump sum on my credit card.
Oh my gosh, that is
Yeah.
that is so awesome. I know that you must feel extremely proud of yourself. I know that you must feel extremely excited about everything of what's to come, that sign of hope, something that you never thought would come, happened for you in this year when you least expected it, and on the Lord's Day, when you got ushered to go to that mailbox and check that mailbox and pick up that letter. And that shows that the power of obedience and discipline can take you so much further than your own maybe intentional, internal, self-directed methods or efforts could ever do. So, Dr. Apryl, I just want to say thank you for sharing your story. And I would also like to give you the opportunity to leave an encouraging word for someone, because you said something powerful not too long ago about how you don't want your story of praise, you don't want the story of your good news to be a hamper or maybe cause someone else to feel bad about their situation. But let's use this opportunity to lift them up if we can. So, what words of encouragement would you say to someone who feels completely overwhelmed with their student loan situation? They feel like the loan forgiveness process is too slow, it's not moving quick enough. They feel like there's no way out of their situation. What would you tell them to encourage them in this moment? What would be your words to them?
I was scared. I was scared to do anything different. I was scared to see what would happen. And I just let that feeling in my gut that was telling me that I have to try. And that although I had this crushing debt weighing me down, that something and someone was telling me that you have to go for it, that you have to try. That is never too late. And I'm 20 plus years into this. So I never thought it was gonna happen for me. But I never gave up. Even after being rejected over and over and over again for the teacher forgiveness. I could have said screw it and not even try for the public service loan forgiveness. But I just knew it had to be better than this. And I'm gonna call this a miracle because in no book there's no one could have said that this was going to happen. No one could have wrote this down, that I was going to get rid of $133,000 in what, 7 months? 7, 8 months. Like, I can't, like, the time frame from when I started the paperwork until I got that letter, those months changed my life. Those months. So you can't give up. Like, you just can never give up, because you never know what's going to happen. You never know where your blessing's going to come from.
Amen. And Dr. Apryl, we are going to end it off with this, because you said 7 months. And what do we know about the number 7? 7 marks completion. 7 marks completion. And your student loan debt journey has been completed on the 7th month after the process started. I can't. I will get up right now and I will bust out a praise move in a second. Oh my goodness.
So much. I thank you so much. I
I
thank you
thank
so much.
I thank you, Dr. Apryl. Thank you so much again for your time and being willing to share with me your journey, and not just me, but everyone else who is listening. We have the DDTV fam, the DDTV community, but I know for certain that this story is going to touch and reach so many, if not today, if not tomorrow, if not a week from now. It is definitely going to reach someone at the perfect opportune time in which they need to hear it, receive it, and have that notion of encouragement. So beautifully said, Dr. Apryl. I do want you to share where we can find you. Dr. Apryl has a YouTube channel, you guys. And so let us know if anyone wants to reach out to you personally, if anyone wants to support your efforts and what you're doing. Let the folks know where they can find you and how they can support you, and what your next initiatives are.
If you are on YouTube, you can go to Miss Momo Teaches and you can send me messages there. I'm on Instagram at simply.drmore, or you can send me an email, aprylelmore@gmail.com. And I'm blessed and highly favored, and I will talk to anyone. Ask me questions, I will answer.
Amen, amen. I'm loving it. So you guys, Dr. Apryl's YouTube channel, Instagram page, email address, all of that will be linked down in the description box. Please feel free to reach out to Dr. Apryl, subscribe to her YouTube channel, follow her on Instagram, and as she said, reach out to her. She's an open book. She's willing to help and encourage and give you any insight that you may be looking for. She is evidence in the flesh that the public service loan forgiveness is real. She is among so many others who have been receiving this forgiveness. So if you have been journeying along in this process and you know that you've gotten your stuff in for PSLF, you might not see any movement, you might not see any updates just yet, or it's as fast as you want, I'm just asking you to be patient. The Department of Education is asking you to be patient, because as long as you've done your part, they will do theirs. And if you see a number on the dashboard that's stuck at 55, you don't know how it could jump to 120, 140, 160 overnight. Don't play with the Lord. Do your part. Do your part, and he will do his. Do your part, and the other parties will do theirs. Dr. Apryl, it has been a joy to have you, and I would love to have you back anytime. Maybe when you pay off your next debt that you're focusing on tackling, we can do a part 2 of this convo to show how you've not only received a huge blessing with your student loan forgiveness, but also showing how you're actively working on your debt elimination journey and the goal that you've set to eliminate that credit card debt. You've been able to achieve it, and then you can share your story of how that progress went for you. That's only if you're up to it. That's only if you're up to it, Dr. Apryl. Only if you're up to it. All right, everyone. So it has been an honor and a pleasure to be with you all on this day. Thank you so much again for our special guest, our DDTV special guest, Dr. Apryl Moore, all the way in from Kentucky, letting us know her public service loan forgiveness story. Please make sure that you support her YouTube channel. Make sure that you follow her on Instagram and reach out to her. She has a twin sister too, y'all. So shout out to her twin sister, Dr. Apryl's twin sister. Hopefully she can be on the channel next too. Maybe. We'll see if she's up to it. But you all, I want to remind you that your financial prosperity awaits you, and so does your financial sanity. You already know what I'm going to tell you to do, and that's what? Get to work. All right, guys. Bye.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia